Today's lesson title is The Judgment of Mysterious Babylon. We are in Revelation chapter 17. Today we're going to do about 6 verses out of Revelation 17. It's a chapter that has 18 verses. And so we're going to do and cover the first 6 verses of Revelation 17 today. I have sent you all the notes that have been written up of what we're going to talk about today for further reference. And we are recording this lesson as well so that you'll have notes and a recording as well, because it's not so much I'm trying to emphasize listening to me or my oratorical skills or lack of that oratorical skills. But the point is, this is a time, saints, that the world is spinning out of control. And these are perilous times. And what gives us our standing and grounds us from being swept away with the panic and the emotion and the deceptions and confusion of this time is the word of Yah and his instructions to us in the midst of this time. So more than ever before, passages like Revelation 17, which some say is probably the most frightening chapter in the whole Bible. Some people say that. There's different opinions on that. I think there's quite a few frightening chapters in the book of Revelation, but this is one that's classified as such. I'm going to ask Minister, if you all will bear with us, though we're not going to cover every verse of chapter 17. I would like Minister Yeshua, if you could read us the entire chapter of Revelation 17, even though we're only going to do 6 verses out of it, just so we can get a perspective of the tenor of this chapter. Revelation chapter 17, those of you who have your Bibles, verse 1 through 18.
The book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse 1. There came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, and I will show thee unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have made her drunk with the wine of her fornication. So she carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple, and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yeshua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? Will I tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carried her, which have the 7 heads and 10 horns? And the beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into the perdition, that they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. And they beheld the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which will have wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. The other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom yet as of yet, but receive power as the kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Hamashiach, and King of kings, and they that are with him are called the chosen and faithful. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. And Yah had put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of Yah shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
Praise Yah. Told minister, chapter 17 is where Yah is dealing with a city or a civilization that the city represents that has been his greatest antagonist. That is the system of this city. It's like we're now at this point and phase, like when you look at a movie or you read a book, there's an antagonist that pops up more or less at the beginning. And the hero, the story always revolves how the hero manages to come into victory over the chief antagonist they face. So always you'll notice the time where the actual match between the hero and the antagonist, that means the chief enemy, is always at the end. Because if it happened before that, there wouldn't be an end. If as soon as the movie would start, the movie would be over. But it's always at the end where the worst, most wicked antagonist to the hero gets their due diligence. And that's the case here with Babylon. Babylon has been Yah's greatest systematic enemy of rebellion against him on the earth ever since the end of the flood. In one shape, form, or fashion, Babylon, its culture, its values, and its wickedness have always been antithetical to Yah's plans for man. It is as though it is the society and culture that today we call the world or the world system. And that whatever it is that we see in the world system, whether it's mandates for vaccines, whether it's corruption and all kind of immorality and every kind of wickedness, it all emanates around a rebellious culture that has rebellious values and principles contrary to the values of Yah. You and me every day are living in the midst of a world that is still conditioned and functions as initially it was set up in the days of the building of the Tower of Babel, a rebellious society to Yah and to his principles. And we find that Babylon is like the antagonist at the end of a story that now is about to face the duel between it and the hero. And the hero is Yah. So we see that Babylon is listed as the last national enemy against Yah. It's interesting. I mean, all the other nations of the world have been enemies to him. Even our own nation turned out to be an enemy to the one who loved us so much. We rebelled because we got caught up with Babylonian corruption. And the prophets bear witness to that. So what did Yah do? He said, well, you want to be like Babylon? I tell you what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to give you to Babylon as slaves. See how you're going to like that? You had enough of me and you want to live like the Babylonians? Well, I'll put you with the Babylonians as slaves and a disenfranchised and oppressed people to Babylon. Now, how you going to like that? And that's what Yah did to us. I mean, we've seen historic Babylon that happened. He sent us there in the days of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And yes, Abednego was a Negro. He was a Negro. So he wasn't a bad Negro, but he was a Negro. All of them all them Negroes, them Hebrew Negroes. That's what we are. We all, our ancestors went to Iran and went to Iraq, which was the area of the kingdom of ancient Babylon. But we never learned our lesson. Yah down through history just kept using different encampments of Babylon. You know, Babylon moves. It's a system that moves. It's a civilization that moves. It doesn't just stay in the plains of Shinar. It didn't just stay in Iran. It moved on to places like Greece. It moved on to places like Rome. It moved on to places like Egypt. And it moved on to a place we call the United States of America. And so when we come to the closing verse of Revelation 16, we see that at the end of the age, the final repository and resting place of ancient Babylonian culture, society, system values will reside in the United States where it is now. And we're going to talk about that today, that you are in the midst of a great drama unfolding. And this is the time of the climax of that battle between Yah and Babylon. And I need not tell you who's going to win. Yah is going to win every time. But this is a lesson he's teaching Israel in this passage in chapter 17. But we see what we see about Babylon in chapter 17. It actually starts in Revelation 16, verse 19. Mister, could you read for us Revelation 16, verse 19?
Revelation chapter 16, verse 19. And the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell. Great Babylon came in remembrance before Elohim to give unto her the cup of wine of the fierceness of his wrath.
Notice, all the other capitals of the world have fallen at this point. And there's still one standing, and it's Babylon, this American Babylon. A lot of us think Putin, who's now talking about invading Ukraine, that might happen this week, by the way. And he's threatened America that if they don't stop getting all his neighbors around Russia, like Ukraine or others like Georgia, not the state, but the nation Georgia, and that are on the border with Russia. He's saying that, you know, he's just going to go off and invade Ukraine. And he's got now supersonic nuclear weapons. China got supersonic nuclear weapons. North Korea another enemy of America. They just tested nuclear supersonic weapons. And everybody said, oh my, Russia, China, and North Korea, they're getting ready to do a thing. And even now we're hearing Iran has developed, not nuclear, but they've developed the capacity of a hypersonic type weapon that could reach over here too. So now America's not going to be safe like it was in World War II before they had that kind of technology. Where in World War II, America is so far away from both theaters of war, except the incursion at Pearl Harbor, way out there in Hawaii. Other than that, the mainland America never got touched. Well, this war coming up with these kind of weapons now, America can not only be touched, but America can be devastated now. This is a different time, saints. Yet, Yah's not going to let nobody destroy America till he gets his crack in. That's what you're looking at, saints. It's like he said, no, this behind of America is not for Russia, it's not for China, it's for me to take care of that. Their behind is mine. And that's why it said all of the other cities, which meant all of the capitals of the world that he just read in verse 19 of chapter 16, they had all fallen, but Babylon was still standing. And see, Babylon would get a certain sense of, well, you know, I sit a queen, I'm not supposed to be destroyed. I'm the economic center of the world. And Moscow will be destroyed at that time. Beijing will be destroyed at that time. I mean, all the world capitals of the world powers will be messed up at that time. Babylon still standing. See, I told y'all, this is American exceptionalism. Oh, no, it's not. It's just that, yeah, I got something really good to put on this country. That he don't want nobody else to steal his thunder for what he's about to do on this country. Because this is the repository of the last vestiges of the initial rebellious civilization that would antagonize Yah so much that he changed all of mankind's language at the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 10, Genesis chapter 11. He changed mankind's language to divide man up from ever being able to come to confederate together as an international unit against him. That's why he gave them different languages, so they would have a hard time uniting in rebellion. But see, now mankind, Babylon has reconfigured itself where the whole world speaks one language again. Those of us who travel internationally, we know that every airline pilot, whether he's from China, Russia, Africa, Europe, wherever, Spain, they all have to know to speak one language. And the air traffic control tower people have to know how to speak one language. They can't afford to have pilots flying around the world with different languages, control towers with people that speak only one language, can't understand each other. We'd have crashes all over the world, but the world decided, well, we're going to speak one language, which happens to be the language of America, English, which is the international world language. So they have reconfigured a time where mankind speaking one language when it comes to official business, like flying airplanes around the world and many other capacities. International cooperation. Not only this, all the nations of the world confederated together for an international government that's based in America called the United Nations. It's the first worldwide international government since the days of the Tower of Babel. And guess what the official language is of that organization? English, the language of America. So you see, This whole configuration that we call America, y'all don't want to destroy it before he destroys all the other cities of the world and capitals of the world. Even we read, as we study Revelation 17, why is America great Babylon? Why is America great Babylon? Isn't this the most Christian nation on the earth? Isn't this the nation that more missionaries go throughout the world with the gospel than any other nation in the world? Isn't this the nation where there are more Christians per capita and Bible thumping religious people and churches on every corner? Why this nation? Well, there's something mysterious about all of that. We're going to look at this in Revelation 17. It's going to open up some things to us. We're going to take our time to go through this. First of all, in what he read in verse, I believe it was 4 of chapter 17, the title, Mystery, Babylon the Great. Mystery or mysterious usually means something that has hidden secrets. That means the way America spun by those commentators on what they call patriot channels like Fox, they talk about America like it's just God's greatest gift to mankind and that it's just so great. Yet when we come to Revelation 17, we're going to show you clearly it's talking about here. Yet the Bible describes it as so wicked. How did this disparity come about? They had Christmas just here a few weeks ago where they all did their Shabbat 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And it happened to be on our weekly Shabbat, but we weren't doing Christmas. But they made that their holiday, and they're the leading nation of the holiday of Christmas, believe it or not. They actually America were the ones who internationalized it in the way it's done today. America was the one, the international with reindeers and Santa Clauses and little demonic elves that became the commercial aspect of it. And oh, by the way, to commemorate and celebrate that Messiah was born. So they threw that in for good measure. You would think, well, wait a minute, why is a nation, and there's been there's wicked nations all over the world. Why is this nation like this? It's called out as though it's the worst enemy to Yah of all the nations. That's a mystery, that there's some secrets underneath it. Some more public than others, but because you listen to these so-called patriots, they just believe this is just their constitution is the world's greatest invention. All right. And by the time they spin it, some of our people have been deluded and drunk the Kool-Aid of the maddening cup of Babylon. And some of the nations of the world have drunken the maddening cup of the delusional understanding that the world is always going to be better off when America is in control. For it is the standard of liberty in the world. Well, we're going to talk about that liberty statue that they claim. It is that it's the policeman of the world to keep the world in order so they can stick their hand in everybody's business all over the world because they know what's best for all mankind. They're the world's last great hope for what they call a new world order. And if you notice, all they're talking about are things that sound good. but they're not lining up with scripture. See, Revelation, the book of Revelation means to unveil something that's hidden. That's what literally what the word apocalypsis means. It means to unveil something. Well, in this case, America is going to be unveiled by Yah to show its nakedness and its wickedness. And it's not going to be able to present its propaganda that it does through the media, that it's such a good, wonderful nation. And many people around the world believe that. Everywhere I've lived or traveled to other parts of the world, everybody there wants to come here. And they wonder why I'm trying to get away from it. That's how deceived people have been to drink from the cup of the deceptions of Babylon. Now, I've harped on that long enough. So mystery or mysterious usually means something that has hidden secrets, all right? Or it's something that's not openly understood. See, that's the great trick about America. It's as though, to many in the world, it's the hero of the world, when in reality, it's the villain of the world. All right. Now, the book of Revelation was written around 95 AD. The ancient city of Babylon in Iraq, by that time, had been a deserted ghost town since at least 125 BC. That is, the ancient city of Babylon, which was in Iraq, it was a ghost town. It's one of those towns, when we talk about ghost towns, you've seen cowboy movies, where it's a deserted town and it looks haunted. Or you go to places like Detroit or Gary, or places like Camden, or they're just have fallen apart from what they used to be, because jobs, economics, and opportunities left those cities. Factories were closed. Well, that's what happened to ancient Babylon. It just was deserted, and another town had all the jobs, business. It was called Baghdad. So when we read about Babylon here in Revelation 17 in 95 AD, it's clearly not talking about ancient Babylon right here, or Iraq. This means that the Babylon mentioned in Revelation could not be in Iraq. So that means there's another city that the Bible calls Babylon. And it's a Babylon that's not publicly called Babylon, but it's a Babylon that is mysteriously called Babylon, because in Revelation 17:18, we are told that the mystery Babylon in this chapter is primarily a literal city and not an economic or religious system. Now, it's a literal city, but its influence economically and religiously covers the world, if you want to look at it from that in terms of system. But you can't have one with the other. It's not just a system by itself corrupting all over the world. It's a system that's corrupting all over the world, but it's based in one city. All right, Minister, could you read for us Revelation 17:18 to show us that Babylon is a literal city? Minister, could you read 17 and 18 again for us?
Revelation 17 and 18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
All right, so Revelation is telling us this is a literal city. Not just a system, but it's a literal city. Revelation 16:17 through 19 that we just referred to tells us that this mysterious city is judged at the time of the pouring out of the last bowl of Yah's wrath on the earth. Minister, could you read for us Revelation 16, verse 17 through 19?
Revelation chapter 16, verse 17 through 19. And the seventh angel poured out his vial onto the earth, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, "It is done." And there was voices, thunders, lightnings. There was a great earthquake, such was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty earthquake and so great. And the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell. The great Babylon came in remembrance before Yah, to give unto her the cup of wine of the fierceness of his wrath.
All right. So that means all the other cities or capitals of the world will be devastated. But Babylon, at the time of this last bowl of Yah's anger poured out on there, it will be, as they say, the last man standing. It'll be the last man. It's the last city standing. Now, I don't recommend you look at this movie, but I'm interested in some things, and I know how to eat the fish and spit out the bone. And I don't want to influence you to look at something if you don't know how to do that. But I did look at the movie Babylon AD that came out a few years ago. And it had that great action actor, what's his name? Van Diesel. And in it, it showed a time like what we're talking about here, where all the other nations of the world, their capitals and cities were in devastation. And the only city that was fully up and running and developed was New York. And I knew that those that produced that had read the book of Revelation, because one of the producers was RZA of Wu-Tang Clan, who's a very informed brother, though I don't subscribe to all he's informed in, but he's awake and understanding enough there that it made it, he understood from this perspective of Revelation that it in the movie, they will put out a presentation where America's New York City is like the last great city standing in the world. And that's straight out of this passage here in Revelation 16. And this means also that Babylon will not be the capital of the Antichrist. Because we read in Revelation 16:10 that the fifth bowl of the wrath of Yah is poured out on the capital of the beast. Mister, could you read for us Revelation 16:10?
Revelation chapter 16, verse 10. And then the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain.
So that means Babylon is not the capital of the Antichrist. His capital is hit and devastated also. But Babylon is still standing. Now, we're going to see in chapter 17 a strange relationship between the Antichrist, the beast, and the city of Babylon in the last days. It's a classic love-hate relationship that's rather weird to look at, the relationship between the Antichrist and Babylon. And I will tell you, it's one of the worst love-hate relationships. But even the Antichrist's chief city, his capital, is destroyed, and Babylon is still standing. Now that's we're going to see some details about that later in part 2 of chapter 17, the relationship between the Antichrist and the beast with Babylon, when we do part 2 of chapter 17, which would cover from verses 7 through 18. But today we're just going to cover verses 1 through 6. All right, in Revelation 17. But the seventh and last bowl of Yah's wrath is poured out lastly on mystery Babylon. This means that the judgment on Babylon will come at a time when it will be the greatest city on earth. That's what we have to understand. So as some people are talking about leaving America, going to Ghana and going to South Africa or other countries overseas, or in South America, Belize, or well, I know what you're trying to do. And I know how you're thinking. I did that myself and woke up and found out that the reality of the matter is if all the nations are going to go down before America goes down, you have to really look at the calculus of that based on what we're reading in Revelation 18 and 17, that it's the last nation and its chief city, New York, is the last city that's going to go down. So unless you are where Yah has you to be, we can't figure out. It's a gamble to go anywhere else until Yah clearly shows us where to go. It's a gamble. It's a crapshoot. In my case, it was a crapshoot that I lost. And I had to come back. So I'm here to tell you, this passage, this is why we're going to take our time through this, because others are talking about, well, I got to run up in some mountaintop area or some village somewhere out in the country in America to hide out. Well, we're going to look at that. Okay, what's the value of that? I mean, it's certainly wise to be as safe as you can, where you can be. I've thought about it, and our people are in right now. We were talking about this in the Tuesday night study the other day. Is right now Hebrews in America are moving in droves, unlike has ever been since the time of the great migrations from the south to the north. See, up until about 1920, most of our people 100 years ago were still living in the south. But my goodness, we made great migrations, places like Pittsburgh, New York, and Chicago, and we just moved to these northern places. And now it's almost like the opposite. We're moving from those northern places to the south, to places like Atlanta, Orlando, Houston, and Dallas, and San Antonio, Phoenix, and Las Vegas. Yeah, we leave in California. A lot of us went out there, we getting out of there and drove. So I did not know demographically how massive of a move in the millions of our people right now, leaving places like Chicago, Detroit, and moving to these so-called new locations. But when we read Revelation, I think what we're going to see clearly through particularly this chapter, if it said all the cities of the earth fell, that means there's one city in America that will not have fallen until last. So that means Atlanta will have fallen, DC would have fallen, Baltimore would have fallen, Denver, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Phoenix. And, we got some dear saints, a lot of us are moving out west to Seattle. And I ain't telling nobody out in Seattle, Tacoma area, to leave there and come somewhere else. We're not saying leave where you are. I'm not saying. All I know is our only refuge is Yah. And if it's that we're in a city, I'm living in a city that more Hebrews are leaving here than any other city in the nation. But I haven't felt Yah telling me to leave yet. I haven't. I thought about it, prayed about it. But when I read this section, it says all the cities are going to fall, but New York City is going to be standing. Because see, it is saved for the last butt whooping of all of the cities of the world. So if you go to Accra, Ghana, or you go to Nairobi, Kenya, or Johannesburg, South Africa, those are nice places. I mean, those are nice places. I look at these places and I say, oh, wouldn't it be nice? Yet Johannesburg's going down. Accra's going down. Nairobi's going down before New York City goes down. Yes, they're going down first. And I said, whoa, definitely Chicago's going down. But I haven't heard y'all tell me to leave here yet. You know why? Because I personally believe, saints, there's only one place that we can go to when the time comes for us to go there. And Minister, could you read for us in the book of Joel? This is off the beaten path of the scriptures that I gave for you, but if you could be so kind to go to Joel chapter 2, and could you read for us in Joel chapter 2 and read for us verse 32?
Joel chapter 2, verse 32. It shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yah shall be delivered from in the Mount Zion, and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as Yah hath said, in the remnant of Yah, the remnant whom Yah shall call.
So if you're the remnant of Yah, there's only one city of refuge for you and me. It's Jerusalem. And yet, it's not yet accessible to us right now. Yet, when we read Revelation and we see in chapter 16, the destruction of cities, and then we see the culmination of the destructions of cities, all the cities of the world, including the cities of America. There's only one city that will be left standing. Yet, when we read about Jerusalem, it said in verse 19, the great city, this great city for us is Jerusalem. It said it was divided up into 3 parts. It didn't say it fell. It said it divided up into 3 parts. Why? Because what's going to happen is Yah will do some renovations to Jerusalem that will change the topography of Jerusalem to accommodate you coming in there. In essence, when you read Zechariah chapter 14, you see that Yah will enlarge Jerusalem so that the remnant of Israel can all fit there. Could you read for us, Minister, chapter 14 of Zechariah? Chapter 14 of Zechariah. And Minister, could you read for us verse 4, verse 3, 4, and 5? Zechariah chapter 14.
Then shall Yahweh go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in the day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And on the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there will be a very great valley, and a half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and on the half of it toward the south. And when you shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal, yea, you shall flee, like as you fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah the king of Judah, and Yahweh my Elohim shall come, and all the saints with thee.
Hallelujah. See, Yah has a place of refuge for you and me. That's not to say if you feel there's better opportunity in these Babylonian cities in America. See, New York is the mother chief city of America, and all the other cities are like her daughters. They're all trying to emulate, be like her. You know, she got skyscrapers, so they all want skyscrapers, just like at the Tower of Babel. See, that's the whole thing. She got daughters, so she's the mother. So all these cities here in the cities of the world, they're all her daughters. They're all trying to look like her. Progress of civilization is always where every city in the world tries to build its landscape to look like the skyline of New York City, all over the world, especially here in America. All right, so now the reality of the matter is Jerusalem. I've been to Jerusalem. Jerusalem, to me, it's quite small at this point. What I mean is this, the whole, like the old Jerusalem, where the old city was, it's even not there anymore. It's been destroyed. And the Jerusalem they call the old city, that was built up by the Turks. So that's not really a representative of the real original old Jerusalem. Like Yeshua said, the old Jerusalem was torn down with not one stone left upon another. It was totally devastated. And now that it's barren, desolate. I showed you the barren, desolate hill where the temple was of it. It's okay, but one thing I do know, when it talked about in Revelation 16:19, that the great city, talking about Jerusalem, was divided in 3 parts. Then you read here in Zechariah that the minister just read that when Yah comes to wage war on the earth, like we see in Revelation, that the city shall divide up into 3 parts and spread out. Like an earthquake comes not to destroy it, but to change the tectonic plate structure around it, where the whole city is extended outward in 3 parts. Why is that? Because Yah is making room for you. Like it said in Joel, as the minister just read. And in that day, it shall come to pass, whosoever that call on the name of Yah shall be delivered or safe. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance. In Jerusalem will be safety. There's no safety in Atlanta. There's no safety in Disneyland, Orlando. There's no safety in Houston, Dallas, Phoenix. There's really no extended safety in the final analysis of the time of Yah's judgment, except in Jerusalem. And my goodness, that's the last place most Israelites think of as a place of refuge, because it seems to be so dangerous around. But that's where our faith comes in. So why is Revelation written? It's understandable when it was written 25 years after Jerusalem had been destroyed. And John, who wrote it, remembered growing up and going to the temple in Jerusalem all his life. Now he's an old man, and the guys open up his eyes to see a day when it will be restored. But he sees it's restored as a place of refuge for you when Yah has begun to destroy the cities of the earth, and especially to destroy Jerusalem. So what are we saying? Well, we're saying this. If you're in the remnant, now the remnant are those that have the testimony of Yeshua and the commandments of Yah Elohim. The remnant are the people known as the Nazarene Zion Church. That's what we aspire to be. The Nazarene Zion Hebrew congregation of the pure virgin doctrine of Yah. That's the remnant that is called the 144,000. That city, that place is where you will be living. And before he comes back, he will rock that city, because there are powers that rule it now that are not of him. That government there now is not of him. It's antagonistic towards him and Hamashiach and you, his people. Yet Yah is going to shake that place up. And even before he comes back, the remnant shall be able to go in there. We are going in there before he comes back. And we don't have time to go in details on the immediate shakeup that's getting ready to happen. There's an immediate shakeup, then there's going to be a bigger shakeup later. But I'm moving on. I don't want to bog down too much with that. Anybody got any questions at this time? The floor is open. Anybody got any questions, comments?
I was going to show you something on a
Go ahead.
square screen, share screen.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Let me get it. Just a moment. Okay.
Not going to take up too much of your time, man.
Okay, let's see. Hold on.
We were going to do this last Shabbat, I think.
Okay, got it. You come on in now.
All right.
Come on in.
I got a dollar bill.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so that's the first captivity, Egypt. It's the last captivity, and they claim that on top of the one, it says, "In God we trust." So this is Babylon, the United States of America. But then when you key in over here in this corner here, you see the 6-pointed star there.
All right. Come on.
So who they really trusting in?
There it is.
That's
this is why it's called Mystery Babylon. All these symbols are very mysterious, aren't they? Thank you for bringing that out, Minister.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you again. We're going to have to go back and review that because most of us, like me, we don't even keep cash. I haven't carried cash in my wallet in so long because all of us use cards. But maybe they want to hide their secrets to make this a cashless society because now, people can interpret what's really on the dollar bill and they begin to see things they don't want us to know.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you, Minister, for showing that. We need this. That flows in with what we're going to talk about. That the city of Mystery Babylon will be at the zenith of its power when it will suddenly be destroyed. Everybody looks at the stock market in New York. When it's going down, they say, "Oh, America's going down." And China's going up. They everybody always says those things, but that's not what the book's saying. The book's saying all the way up until the time that the city of Babylon is destroyed, it will be the greatest economic center of the world. Not Beijing, China, Singapore, or Berlin. It's still going to be Babylon. That's what makes its fall so dramatic. See, if it fell before it was destroyed, that wouldn't be as dramatic. See, Yah's going to make this a test case because not test case, an example case, because he's had to put up with the principles and worldly system of Babylon for over 4,000 years. Now you would say, why didn't Yah just zap it all out? Just zap out any emergency system like that? He could have. But the reality of the fact is, very often Yah chooses to wait before he destroys something, because he could destroy something, but the idea could still be hanging out there that he destroyed it because he didn't want some kind of truth to be made of. Now he's going to let it all hang out as far as it can go before it destroys itself. Then he will destroy it because their behind is his. And so he's going to let them be at the zenith of their power before they are suddenly destroyed. That's how dramatic it is. So this mystery city, Babylon, will be the last powerful world capital to drink the cup of the wrath of Yah. All the other nations, capitals and cities will fall. This is why Jeremiah 25, verse 26 says this regarding mysterious Babylon taking the cup of Yah's wrath. Lastly, Minister, could you read for us in Jeremiah chapter 25, verse 26?
Jeremiah chapter 25, verse 26. And it reads, and all the kings of the north, far and near, and one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world, which are upon the face of the earth, and the king of Shishak shall drink after them.
Shishak. That's a mystery name for mystery, the city of mystery Babylon. Sometimes in scripture, the mystery name for the latter-day Babylon is Shishak. Minister, can you read Jeremiah 51:41?
Yes, sir. Jeremiah 51, verse 41. And it reads, how Shishak taken, and how is the praise of the whole earth surprised, how Babylon became an astonishment among the nations.
All right. So Jeremiah is told in chapter 51, verse 41 of Jeremiah, that the name for the city of Babylon is Shishak. And this is talking about a latter-day Babylon, because see, historical Babylon was never destroyed at once. It just fell apart and became a ghost town. But this is a Babylon described in Jeremiah 51 that's destroyed all at once. So he wasn't talking about the historic Babylon. And he calls this latter-day Babylon Shishak. See, why is it America is called Shishak? Why is it Mystery Babylon, the city of Mystery Babylon, is called Shishak? It's always called Shishak when it's in the last days. So that means it's not really talking about the Babylon that's in ruins now in Iraq. In fact, Jeremiah is told, Minister, could you read for us, well, we already read it, chapter 25 or 26 of Jeremiah is told that this mysterious Babylon, Shishak, will be the last of the city-state nations to be judged. So we're going to look at the meaning of latter-day Babylon's mystery name, Shishak. Now, let me see if I got something up there. I want y'all to please bear with me. Maybe I forgot to put it up there. You know what? I forgot to put it up there, and I'm not going to go there. But you can look in your emails. Everybody on here now, on your email, I sent you all this breakdown numerically of what Shishak means, so that you can review it later. Unless you can stand by, I can pull it up. Give me just a moment. Would y'all mind?
We don't mind, Elder.
Oh, okay. Give me just a second here. Let me make this, set this up. It won't take long, just a moment. Stand by.
I got it, Elder.
No, this is something that I got.
Oh, I said I got something too.
Okay, hold that. Give me just a second. Let's get this up here. Okay, just a minute. All right.
What does it say mean?
All right. Can y'all see that right there? It's very small. I tried to enlarge it, but I'm going to show you something. Shishak means possessor of the six. Ancient Babylon's mathematical system used 60 as its base number, just as Western cultures use 10 as its base number. All right. But Western culture has adopted the Babylonian 60 base number for keeping time. That is why 60 seconds make a minute, 60 minutes make an hour. And 60 minutes makes a TV show too. Anyway, that's something else. All right. King Nebuchadnezzar, the ruler of Babylon, in Daniel 3:1. Minister, could you read Daniel 3:1 for us?
It said Daniel 3:1.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel chapter 3, verse 1. And Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon.
All right. So Nebuchadnezzar, ruler of Babylon, in chapter 3, verse 1, made an image that was 60 cubits. That's the mathematical base number of Babylonian mathematics. King Nebuchadnezzar took the base number 60, which is a multiple of 6. Babylon is called Shishak. It means one who possesses the 6. On the back of the dollar bill, over the head of the eagle, is a 6-point star, as minister just showed you. Right? It's a 6-pointed star over top of the head of the eagle. That was the numerical base number of ancient Babylon. 60 is 10 times 6, which in ancient mathematics, 10 means completeness. So when you say 10 times 6, you have 60. That means a complete 6. Anyway, I'm not a math. You ever go with Ema Deborah for that? She's the retired mathematics teacher in this family. So if we count the number of the name of the latter-day Babylon of the latter-day city of Babylon by the Babylonian math system based around multiples of 6, we can definitely see that New York City is the Babylon with the 6, and is therefore the Shishak, the mystery city Babylon. Let's do the math. We're going to do the math of the city name New York based on each alphabet from A to Z as a multiple of 6. In this case, when I say multiples of 6, A would be 6. See that right there? B would be 12. C would be 18. It would go on and on like that. You know, you just build up these multiples of 6 in a row until you come to Z. Okay. So if we did that based on these multiples of 6 per alphabet and calculate each alphabet for the word or the phrase New York by its corresponding multiple of 6, this is what New York adds up to. N equals 84, E equals 30, W equals 138. 150, Y equals 150, O equals 90, R equals 108, K equals 66, grand total 666, New York. And I can confirm I did the math right, because the greatest mathematician that I know lives with me for the last 40 years. Ema Deborah did the math on it, and it came up just like that. So New York City is the city with the 6. Its It is by its very name, the calculation of the mathematical formula of the number of the beast, and based around the Babylonian gematria system of 6. All right. And so we can see through reading chapter 17 and 18 more descriptions that definitely mark out New York City as Mystery Babylon, the city, and America as the land of Babylon. All right, Minister, you had a question or comment? Or you?
Oh no, I was saying I had this right here. And
okay, here, let me get out of this. You want to put it up on share?
Yeah, let me see.
If you can.
It was just saying the same thing you were saying about Shishak.
Okay. Yeah.
And what it was talking about. I got it. Let me see. All right. It's the blue letter. This is when you type in Shishak.
Go ahead.
And you go down to it says, another name for Babylon, apparently taken from the goddess Shak. Shishak.
That's an interesting one too. I'm gonna look into that because I wasn't aware of that one. I was looking at the note, but I'm gonna look into that. Let's do some review and look up what that goddess was about. Anybody, if you can track that, find that, you can I'll let you bring it up so we can look at what that goddess was about, because that's important, because if the possessor of the 6 is described as a woman, the city describes, well, maybe there's some similarities with this goddess worship of Shak that's similar to New York.
When you go to Revelations 18, the clue gives you about when it says, I said a queen, I'm no widow. That's going into the Statue of Liberty. She said, I said a queen, I'm no widow.
Come on.
Ooh, the goddess Shak.
All right. That can you, Minister, while we're at this, if you, I mean, I got you reading, but maybe because you're a reader, maybe it might be a little hard on you. If somebody there in among us can just go and look up what Minister just pulled up, anything you got about the goddess Shak on the internet, and if you can pull it up, we'll let you bring it up on share screen if you're in a position to do that. If not, we'll just have to wait till that time. Thank you, Minister. I appreciate that. That's interesting. Okay, got it. All right, anybody have a question? Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Minister. That's important that you brought that up in parallel with the Statue of Liberty. I'm headed there about the Statue of Liberty in a moment, but that just adds more fuel to the fire. Thank you for that. Anybody have any other questions, comment right now? Okay, well, I have a question. My question is because, we have a lot of doubting Thomases. There's some people who still believe that there will be a new Babylon rebuilt in Iraq. A lot of evangelical Christian writers write that up in their books. Some people have said that Rome is the new Babylon. I used to believe that one a lot until I began to see that just some things. I've been to Rome, and yeah, they say it's a city on 7 hills, but I look for the places where them hills were. I don't see them. I don't know. Maybe the topography of Rome changed. Maybe it was called City of 7 Hills, not because geographically it actually had real hills that were where it's set. Maybe these are representatives of some deity worship they had. I don't know. But I know this, the place where they said they were, I didn't see them. At least they're not there now in modern day. So, I mean, I flew over Rome looking for those cities, landed in Rome. I didn't find them. So this breakdown is the City of 7 Hills. Them hills must mean something else. Because I didn't see those 7 hills there geographically. Even though some people say Rome called itself the city of 7 hills, they say it, they would name certain, it seemed like some people was training to name certain places that were slightly elevated in Rome and call them, this is one of the 7 hills. But it's not adding up. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got off on that tangent. But how do the scriptures explain the transference of the identity of historic Babylon in Iraq to New York City? All right. Now, there are some clues of how the civilization of Babylon moved to America in the vision John saw described in Revelation 17, 1 through 3. Mister, could you read again, verse 1 and 3 of chapter 17?
You want Revelation?
Yes, sir. Revelation chapter 17, verse 1 through 3. Read that again for us.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 1 through 3. There came one of the 7 angels which had 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore who sit upon many waters, whom the kings of the earth shall have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with her wine of her fornication. So she carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having the 7 heads and 10 horns.
All right. Now, in verse 1, we're going to look at that. I've discovered that in chapter 17, verse 1 through 3, that there are some descriptions that are similar to the vision of the prophet Zechariah in the book of Zechariah, chapter 5, verse 5 through 11 in the Septuagint version. We have to compare scripture with scripture to see clearly how the civilization of Babylon moved the cultural civilization of Babylon moved to America from ancient Babylon. And in verse 1, the city of New York is described as the great harlot that sitteth upon many waters. All right, Revelation 17:15 describes the phrase many waters. Minister, could you read Revelation 17:15?
Revelations chapter 17, verse 15?
Yes, sir.
15?
15, just 15.
And he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest, when the whore sitteth, are the peoples and the multitudes and nations and tongues.
All right. So when in verse 1 it says the prostitute sits on many waters, verse 15 of chapter 17 says the waters is a reference to New York as a place of people, multitudes, and nations, and tongues or languages. New York City is certainly a place like that, particularly with the United Nations located there. So it is the most cosmopolitan city in the world. The only city in the world that comes close to it is London, England. But New York surpasses all of them because it's the base of the international world government. The United Nations is there. So you got every national language in the world represented there. And every kind of nationality, ethnic people represented there in a government there. I mean, there's no other city in the world like that. Rome's not like that. I know the Pope sits there, but he's not all like this. Anyway, okay. Now, verse 2. of Revelation 17, it says, it describes that the leaders of the nations of the world, they are called kings of the earth in verse 2. They're all infatuated and involved in New York's Babylonian mystery religion. That means the civilization city of Babylon is also the repository of New York's Babylonian mystery religion heritage, which is the Masonic Lodge, which encompasses all the religions and philosophies of the world and is represented in the United Nations. When I went to the United Nations, go ahead, Minister. What were you about to say?
I got the information on Shaq the goddess.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. You want
can
that
you pull
now?
it up?
Yeah.
Go ahead, pull it up while you got it. Go ahead, pull it up.
All right. Share screen.
Well, yeah, go ahead. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Get up? Okay, go ahead.
All right, so it says the goddess is called Libertas. Many historians say that Statue of Liberty is modeled after Libertas, the Roman goddess of freedom. However, sculptures, Fredericks was the first inspired colossal figures guarding Nubian tomb. So the Statue of Liberty is connected to the goddess Libertas, because Libertas was the god of freedom in Rome.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Anything with Shaq there?
Yeah, but when I went to another source, it was saying the shacks represented the shackles. It was talking about African American slavery, and that's what it represented: shackles, or enslavement.
That's interesting, but you know that wouldn't be a Babylonian word. That's an English word. So we got to do more research on that. But you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that research. So how is America the repository, the chief repository of ancient Babylonian religion? Well, it's clear, as the minister just showed, the Statue of Liberty is one evidence of it. And the Masonic Lodge, see, this is what we don't understand. The Masonic Lodge, is pure Babylonian mystery religion. What does mystery religion mean? It means like it's a religion for people that are initiated into it. It's not like an open assembly that you can just walk up in. You've got to go through an initiation process to get involved and inside of it. You got to go through certain ceremonies. You got to learn secret codes, secret handshakes, secret knocks. When you start doing things secretly, that's the MO of what you call mystery religion, because you're doing things in secret. So it's mystery, what you're doing. That is, it's a mystery to everybody, except those in the know of what you're really talking about. And those in the know are the ones that got initiated. See, so it's a mystery religion. That is, when they have their initiation ceremonies, that's not a public gathering, you know, like something like a bar mitzvah, that's a public gathering, a baptism. But initiation to be a Mason, that is not a public gathering. That's a mystery gathering. That's a secret gathering. So the very nature of it, of the religion of New York, through the United Nations, is mystery religion. In fact, those that established it were those who were chief Masons of New York City. One's name was Rockefeller. Don't get me started calling names. Rockefeller donated their land for the building of what they call the United Nations. they had always been involved in alliances with fellow Masons inside the Masonic Lodge that are the people most instrumental in the banking system of the world. Because in the banking system of the world, the initiated of the Masonic Lodge are those involved in the mystery religion of it. They use the process of money as part of their mystery rituals. That's why those things on the dollar bill of the minister show are on there. Those are all Masonic Lodge symbols that they have. That's documented. The pyramid is one of their symbols. How'd that become the national seal of America? The six-pointed star. I mean, you can see it on the back of their bumpers. That little symbol for the Masons. You count up, it got 6 points to it. I mean, it's like, it's all around us. And you can miss it unless you really understand that these are at the higher levels, represent a clique of people that have maintained ancient Babylonian religion going all the way back to the Tower of Babel. For instance, if you look at the building of the Tower of Babel, Minister, could you read for us about the builders of the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11, verse 3. Verse 3 and 4.
Genesis 11, verse 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
They said one to another, go and let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime had they for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
And I noticed when you see contractors that work with bricks, what do you call them? They're called a brick what?
Brick mortar.
What? No. The workers, the builders with bricks are called brick masons. Yeah, they do lay mortar, and yeah, they do, but their craft is called masons. So that's where we get the term mason. Now, when they built the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11, 3 and 4, they built it with bricks. So the builders of the Tower of Babel would then be what? Masons. All right, now this gets to be a little more occultic here. Hence, we get the word Mason used for the occultic lodge we call the Masonic Lodge. By their name Mason, they are indicating that they are the successors of the ancient Babylonian mystery pagan religion of the Tower of Babel. That's what you need to see. The Masons don't have like big public gatherings. A lot of people miss it, but you can see through architecture, a lot of their handiwork. And in this case, the Statue of Liberty. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty, and this is well documented, was a gift from the Masonic Lodge in Paris to the Masons in New York to commemorate America's 100th birthday in 1876. This huge image is a statue of the Mother Queen of Babylon at the time of the building of the Tower of Babel. Her name was Semiramis. Now, Semiramis was known as a very seductive woman of ill repute. She is definitely the historical imagery that is being used here to describe New York City as the hub of Babylonian mystery religion in the world. And when I went in the United Nations, And I said, you know, this was in 1985. I was doing a summer internship there for my seminary. I was working in some Jamaican churches up in the Bronx. And I had opportunity during that time, that summer, to go to the United Nations. I went into the General Assembly room, but then I wanted to go to see what is the religion behind this place. And they had what they call a meditation room, where all the diplomats go there, you know, for prayer. And I said, no, okay, now this is a body that got all kind of different religions and philosophies, even some that are atheists. But this is a meditation room where all of them go. So I went in the meditation room. You know what I thought before I was going to go in it? I said, maybe I'll see some crosses. I'll see some 6-point stars. I'll see a crescent moon. Or I'll see all these symbols, all these different world religions. I went in there, I didn't see none of that. All I saw when I went in there was a mural on the wall with this big eye. Well, it was an eye. I mean, like an eye in your eye. Not the letter I, but an eye. I said, is that it? Yeah, but what's on the back of the dollar bill? What's on the back? Minister just showed it over top of the pyramid. What is that? That eye. So in the meditation room of the United Nations, that eye that you see on the back of the dollar bill that has next to it, in God we trust. And really, when you look at the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, it's really an unfinished pyramid. It's not really fully a pyramid. You know why? Because the top part of it is detached from it. It's flat at the top, which means it's not a pyramid at this point. It's a ziggurat, which is, it's something that's not a pyramid unless it has the point connected at the top of it. You don't have that. The point is disconnected from it. It's flat at the top. They call that a ziggurat. And that's a description of the Tower of Babel, actually. Tower of Babel was a ziggurat. It wasn't a pyramid because it was flat at the top. So they got the representation at the Tower of Babel. And then over it, in the eye of the capstone, it has an eye. And they say that that eye represents the God they trust. That's not your and mine, Elohim. And you can see now who and what this is, that all nations, all the nations represented by all their rulers can find common cause around that eye that's in the capstone. That's part of the Masonic lodge. And also, that eye is the symbol and emblem for the government of America. I mean, you go in a federal building, it's there. So what's it doing as the eye of the world? See? So by the Masons in all of this, this means that New York City is the hub of Babylonian mystery religion in the world. It is. This is the religion that makes the nations drunk because, for one thing, it's part of the money, the number one money of the world, the dollar bill, which represents the religion of the world. They can all fit in there, whether they're Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Jews, Hindus. They all can go in that meditation room. And here's the other key thing I want y'all to understand too. Now, we may veer off slightly. We may have to finish part one at another time because I've gone through so many things here. It's kind of taking too much of your time, but here's what I've discovered about when I was at the United Nations. I went to the United Nations Plaza where they had a bookstore there. And there was a bookstore there called Lucius Trust. Lucius? And the bookstore at one time, I found out historically, used to be called Lucifer's Trust. And in that bookstore, they had books. Their books talked about the implementation of one day the United Nations becoming the actual one world government of the world, that it's in a process of becoming that, though it's not that yet. It's forming to become that eventually. But also they describe one that has been popping up there. Yeah. There has been a person who comes in, manages to speak. He's never televised. And he speaks. We hear that he's been there, but nobody really can track him down, who he is, where he's from, and nobody's taking pictures of him, except one time, but he wasn't there. They give him a title for the Hindu and the Buddhist term for the anointed one, and it's a title they call Maitreya. And the thing about it is he pops up, pops out. They can't keep up. I mean, no, they've tried to track him, but he always, so I don't know what that is, who that is. I got my suspicions, but there's all kind of demonic stuff around the United Nations like that. And this is the kind of stuff that will not be televised because they control the television networks. So they won't televise all about themselves. You just have to keep reading and studying the book. The book will expose them. And so we're doing this because Mystery Babylon hides in shadows. That's why it's called mystery. It's hiding in shadows. So another thing about why New York City is called the mother, you know, the mother of abominations in there in verse 3, is New York was the first capital of the United States. People forget that. New York was the first capital of the United States. When George Washington took office, his capital was New York City when he first took office. All right. So in this sense, New York is the queen mother city of America. And all these other cities are her daughters. All right. So America is the land of Babylon. Babylon's queen mother city is not DC. That was built later. But the original queen mother city of America is New York City. DC is a daughter of New York. That is the power passed down there for the politics, but the International World Government Center is in New York. DC is an important, powerful city, but it's not the seat of an international world government. It's the government of this country.